Hi guys, welcome to the daily analysis for August 7th. Today is a Tuesday, and the market is doing some good stuff. A lot of trend continuation patterns that look to be setting up but not quite completed yet. And so for me, the main thing I'm looking at and trying to kind of decide with myself is whether these trends, especially considering the euro, are going to continue in their former state, or whether these rallies, which are occurring in most of the euro and Canadian and Australian pairs against the dollar, whether the rallies in the opposite direction are going to continue and actually be the new trend. So that's what I'm looking at today. I'm going to go over the charts and show you specific examples of that, like the one you see here of the euro dollar in front of me. And we're going to take a look. Before we do that, we need to quickly check the news and go over our terms, and then we can jump into the analysis. First up, we have the news. Let me pull that up. And you can see here that we don't have a ton of news during the New York session, some very light news here, but we do have some during the London session, which is the pound news, and that is a conference. It's an inflation report, so a lot of times those can have interesting reactions in the market, and that'll be something that you want to pay attention to here, especially if you have any pound trades in play. And then later on, in the Asian session, you see that there is a lot of red tag stuff going on. That's New Zealand, Australia, Japan. So definitely some news that's worth paying attention to as you see all of those red tags tomorrow evening. And we'll definitely be looking forward to that host of news and seeing how that affects the market as we trade tomorrow. Okay, let's take a quick look at our terms. And these are our terms of service about this daily review, and we put these up every review that we do just to make sure that you understand that this is for educational purposes only, and to let you know that the government is strict about the rules for doing something like a daily analysis like we do here, and we just want you to understand exactly what it is, what the purpose is, and what we can and can't do basically. And so specifically what we don't want you to think is that we're registered or licensed to to give you investment advice. It's just our personal trading ideas, and that's all it is. All right. So if you need to pause and read those so that you're clear on that, go ahead, and we're going to jump into our analysis. As I mentioned, the first thing that I'm looking at here is the euro dollar, and you can see that the euro dollar is obviously in a downtrend. That's something that we always like to point out if there's an obvious trend, which there is. It's bearish, and we always go over this triangle break and how that brought out so much bearish movement with the euro dollar. And one thing to note is that since this break, it has made a lower low, but really only once since the crash here. So this is our lower low. It went up, it rallied back down, didn't make a lower low here, and finally made one here. Now you could call this a separate lower low, but since there's only one bar before it continues, I would really only consider this the only new low that it's made. So there's not really much of a downtrend intact here. You don't see a lot of points touching a downtrend and continuing. Now on the flip side, you do see that there's somewhat of the top line trend here, where it's touched here, here, and now for the third time, so a little bit more intact there, but obviously still bearish overall. And what we see here is a test of that line. Now it was rallying up, and still has certainly not turned around yet back into the bearish direction. However, we do see a double top kind of on this trend line, suggesting that it might be turning around. And again, that's kind of what I'm waiting to see. Is this downtrend going to continue and reverse, off of this line and back down and perhaps make a lower low? Or is this rally going to, stall around this level, break through, and actually end up going in the upward direction? And so my bias, of course, is bearish with the trend, but it's always important to keep yourself non-biased just in case it does rally up. You don't want to miss a ton of good long opportunities, and you don't want to miss getting in on a good price in case this does continue to rally upward. Okay, so again, this is just about me deciding whether this is going to continue down or rally up. and either one I want to be patient and ready to make a trade either one. So as far as an upward continuation, I would expect obviously a very clear break, perhaps a retest, and then a continuation in the upward direction. Now, for it to head downward, I would think that, whether we get a few more stall bars in this area, I don't know, but I'd want to see one very strong continuation bar to the downside, and that's, what I'm waiting to see. A very strong bar, something like this bar would be something that I'd be expecting to see. And if I do see that, then I'd be pretty confident that the euro dollar is headed back down, and I'd be looking for short opportunities to take there. And so that's what I'm looking for with euro dollar, and it's what you'll see me say on a lot of these pairs. The rest of the pairs we will go through more quickly than the euro dollar, and you'll see that the theme kind of remains the same. I'm looking to see whether these kind of reversal rallies are consistent and whether they are going to hold up or whether the previous trend is going to continue. And if the previous trend does continue, that is my my preferred option. But obviously things don't just happen because you want them to. So being non-biased and just waiting for the technical trade setups is what it's all about, and that's what we're going to try to do. All right, let's look at the USD yen, because that's one that's not really a reversal setup right now. It's more of a channel. Let's look at that. Okay, so you see that this is the channel I'm talking about. Right now we're at the very top of the channel, as you can see. And so what I'm waiting to see here is not actually a trend continuation or a continuation of a reversal. It's just a breakout of this channel. And whether that's long or short doesn't really matter to me. I don't care one way or the other, but I would like to see a very clear break, a retest, and a continuation, whether it's long or short. And again, I always like to see the retest here, which you always see me point out. And that's just because a strong breakout is normally due for a retrace back. So I don't want to get in long here and suffer the downfall. I'd rather wait for the backup and then get in on the way back up, because if it does one of these, obviously the best price to get in is going to be here. And so that's what I try to look for, rather than just jumping in as soon as the initial break happens. And a lot of times it will break and continue up, and there won't be a retrace, and that'll cause someone like me to miss out, unfortunately. But more often than not, the higher probability setup is to wait for that kind of retest, for it to back up after the first initial break, to back up down into here and then to continue on. And so, for me, this leg is where the money's made, and that's what I want to pay attention to. And if I have to miss out on a break that might do this and not actually come back into here, that's going to happen sometimes, and it's going to be frustrating. But more often than not, I'm going to wait for this high probability setup and hopefully get into a trade that looks like this back into here. And so that's what I'm always looking to do. And whether that's bullish or bearish, again, I don't really care. Now, a bearish break, of course, you're going to have to deal with this level, which is a pretty good support level. So if it breaks down into here, it's also going to have to break this level. It's a double level break, obviously. But if it does break both, that would mean serious momentum to the downside, because those are two pretty good levels, this one being a channel level, of course, and this one being a previous major support level. So either of those would be a good, a good signal of bearishness, let alone a break of both. And so obviously that would also continue this downtrend. So a lot of things would line up for a bearish break down into here, and I would definitely be looking for shorts if that were to happen. Okay, that's USD yen on the daily chart. Let's look at pound dollar. Okay, now pound dollar again is in this channel that I keep pointing out to you, and it's something that I'm waiting to continue to tighten up and then break. But as I like to remind you, just because it's in a channel doesn't mean you can't make trades, because this movement back and forth is definitely tradable. Now, once it gets too tight, like for instance if it gets into here, you're not going to be able to trade it. But these legs and even these legs are tradable, because that's a decent amount of pips. If you take shorts up here and ride it down, or longs here and ride it up, you're going to make a decent amount of money. Now, of course, trading in a channel is risky, because the nature of a channel is that it's whipping, and you can see that even on these rallies there is big bars in the other direction. So it is risky to trade in a channel, but if you have a high probability at the top of the or the bottom of a channel, and you can make a good entry, a precise entry, with a tight stop loss and target the other side of the channel, oftentimes you're going to be in a pretty good setup to make some money. So I think that that's very possible. And though overall I am waiting for a break, I do think that before that break happens, that there's going to be some good trade opportunities, and I'm definitely willing to take those. All right, let's take a look at the USDCAD. Now the USDCAD is again in a channel, except for unlike the pound dollar, this is actually a consistent downward channel, so it's more of a trend really than a channel, though the pullbacks are significant, as you can see here, here, and here, although this is kind of the beginning of the channel, not really a pullback during the channel. But either way, you do see that there's a consistent pullbacks in the midst of a downward channel. And obviously you can see that we're at the very bottom of this channel right now, and whether this is going to break back up and come to the top of the channel or break down is yet to be seen, but we should kind of have an answer of that in the next few days, because either it's going to break and show continued momentum and be a steeper downtrend than it is here. It will go something like this, and then steepen up. So this part is obviously a less steep downtrend than this part. Or it's going to continue right back into this pattern. So those are the two kind of expectations that we have here. Now obviously what could happen is it could just ride the bottom of this channel for a good amount of time before it does one of those, either up or down. That's definitely a possibility. But overall the expectation for me would be to see a strong bounce in the next few days, or a break of this level, and that's what I'm waiting to see. Either one, again, is just an opportunity for a trade. I don't care which one. Obviously, a bullish trade here is somewhat risky because of this downward momentum, so you have to be very careful with that. But overall, there's good trade opportunities either direction, and that's what we're looking for. So keep your eye on that. Make sure that you're open to taking that in either direction, and if you have a trade opportunity that follows those technical setups, make sure that you follow that trade technical setup and do it with good risk. Alright, next we're going to move to the Euro Pound, which I have a trade on that I'll show you. Let's take a look at that really quick. So here I have the Euro Pound chart up on the daily, and you can see that I'm actually short on the Euro Pound right now. It's down about half a pip right now, but you can see that I'm playing this short off of trend continuation. Pretty strong line that we have here that the daily bar seems to be bouncing off right now. So looking to see trend continuation, you can see that my target's down here, and if it does continue, then I would expect a pretty good amount of momentum. You can see that the last time it bounced off a trend, there's pretty steep momentum there, and so that's what I'm hoping for right here. But so far the Euro Pound has just been hanging in a very small pip range and hasn't moved a lot, and so this is one that I'm going to have to be patient with, and hopefully if I'm patient, keep my stop loss steady and just wait for this one that is going to continue and eventually head downward and complete this trend continuation setup, which is what I'm hoping for. But you can actually see that it just went in profit there for a second, and it's kind of going back and forth right now. But this is something that I think could materialize pretty well, and it's because there is momentum in the bearish direction. It's also bouncing off this previous level and this trend line level, so a lot of consistency there, and then of course a pretty good bearish bar that we have forming here. So a lot of things going my way on this trade. It's yet to be determined whether the actual trade is going to go my way, but I'll keep you informed on this one to see how it ends up. Alright, we're going to look at one more pair. We're going to check out the Euro Yen, and then we'll finish up our analysis for the day. And you can see the Euro Yen is also pretty bearish because of the Euro weakness. But what's interesting is, unlike the bearish bar that we see on the Euro Pound, the Euro Yen today is actually up slightly. So what that tells me is that the Euro is not necessarily too weak today, as it is bullish against the Yen, but that the Pound is just stronger. So with that Euro Pound short, my thinking with that is that the Euro Pound is headed down, even though the Euro is somewhat strong, which means that if the Euro does weaken up, it will really take off to the downside, assuming that the Pound remains consistent, because it's already headed somewhat downward, even with the euro being somewhat strong. So what I'm hoping for is that the euro does weaken up, and then that the euro pound really takes off to the downside and makes up a lot of ground in a very little amount of time, and hopefully I can cash out that trade with some really nice profit. So that's my thinking there. And with the euro yen, we're coming up with some major resistance. We've already gone through this level here, and we're going to come through kind of the bottom of this level here pretty soon if it does continue upward. And so that'll be something to look for. And if it turns around here, there'll also be great setups on the euro yen short along with the euro pound. Okay, so that's what I'm looking at there. And just obviously, like I said, there's a lot of things that are kind of headed counter trend right now, mainly the euro, as I mentioned. And we'll see if those do, most of them reverse right back down into their trend continuations, like this one obviously being a bearish trend, or if these rallies continue and start making new highs and get up into these higher levels, which would obviously be surprising considering the euro has been so weak, but would also be great opportunities. If you're a trader and you're looking to make money, you want to try to be non-biased so that when people are still trying to short this as it's heading up, that you're able to put that bias behind you and take long setups in the other direction if it does end up lining up that way. So that's a very critical part of trading, and you don't want to trap yourself by being biased and end up losing money. Alright, so that's kind of the main stuff I wanted to go over today, and as always, if you have any questions or you're looking at something else that you'd like me to take into consideration, please leave a comment and I will take that into consideration. I would love to reply to you and get some communication going that way. And if you have anything else, just leave a comment. Alright, I'll talk to you guys soon. Have a great day and good luck in your trading.